Hello guys, are you alright? Everything okay? One more week. Today we have a special grammar topic, and this topic will be, take a look, reported speech. Remember when you started looking at the unit on pages 90, let me check here, page 94 and page 95, we have the beginning of the unit, and there's a question for you. Gossip is good for you. Remember gossip? What's the meaning of gossip? When you talk about other person's life, when you listen to what other person said, when you hear your neighbor speaking, this is all about gossiping, yeah? And that is totally related to reported speech. Because what is the reported speech? Reported speech is when you report what a third person said. When you say what another person said. So that's the main idea. As you remember, in the first part of our class of the week, we had the differences between the verbs say, tell, talk, and speak. So these verbs here are all related to communication, okay? No problems about that. Today, as we have the idea of reported speech, our focus will be much more on say and tell. But let's forget that for a while. I'm going to ask you some questions. First, let's think of a dialogue between two people. You have John and you have Mary, yeah? So imagine that John said, I love you, Mary. But Mary doesn't like him anymore. So she says, sorry, John, but I don't like you anymore. Poor John. She doesn't like him anymore. So we have their story, their situation, but this is a direct speech because John is talking to Mary and Mary is responding John. Now let's figure that another person heard what they said and is going to gossip their conversation. So we have the idea of reported speech. So what is the idea here? John said, what did John say? John said that he loved Mary. But she told him that she didn't like him anymore. So I wrote first the idea of reported speech because then it will be easier for you to understand all the steps that are necessary to construct, to build the reported speech sentences. Yeah? First thing, we have to think about the pronouns, okay? So these are the first things that change. Of course, you have I becomes he, yeah? Mary becomes she, or becomes him, depending if it's subject or object. Take a look. She subject, he subject, him object. So you have to make all the inversions, all the changes related to the pronouns. The second change you have to think of is that verb tenses. What do you have to change about the verb tenses? And this is the most important, guys. Why? Look here. If you have a sentence in the present, when you report the situation, you need to report in the past. As you have another sentence in the present, when you report in the past. And this is the main idea of reported speech. The verb tenses always go back one tense. Present goes to past. Past goes to past perfect, and so on. We'll check some other examples in a while, yeah? And the third tense, the third change we have to think of is about time expressions. But of course, in this example I wrote now, we don't have the change of expression. But let's see another one in a while too. But first, did you notice that I used here two verbs? And these two verbs were in our first video, in our first class. Don't forget that when you say something. When you tell somebody. So don't forget to use the person when you tell. And just one more topic. Remember that here you have that, but that is optional because actually you don't need that. You could use here just to intensify. He said that he loved. She told him that she didn't like. But actually, guys, to be honest, the more you forget, you avoid using that, the better. The more fluent you will be. So take a look at that and be careful. Yeah? So this is the main example related to reported speech. I'm going to write one more so you can understand the time expression changes as well. So let's see here. Erasing first, and then imagine that the teacher says. So the teacher is going to say, hey guys, we'll have a test tomorrow. I said that today. Oh guys, we'll have a test tomorrow. So let's report what he said. The teacher said that, because it's optional, we don't need to use that, okay? The teacher said that. Remember, I told you about verb tenses, you have to go back one tense. So if you go back will, we have to use, the teacher said that we would. Will becomes would. Would have a test. And then comes the point. Tomorrow. Is it the same tomorrow as we have now? Maybe not. You know, why not? Because imagine that a student missed the test. And then 2 days later, the person said, hey guy, you've missed the test. Because the teacher said we would have a test the next day. Because this next day might not be the same tomorrow. It has already come other days. So you have to be careful with that. Then we have all the changes. Pronouns, we, the teacher. Verb tenses, would. And time expressions, the next day. Yeah? So that's the main idea of reported speech. Take a look there. You have in your book, on page 148, talking about the reported speech. Look here. You have some other examples of verb changes. So when you say, I can help you, the reported speech would be, he said he could help me. When you said present continuous, I'm watching TV, how do you report that? He said he was watching TV. And when you say, I met a girl yesterday, when you report that, you say, he said he had met. So this is important, guys. Take a look. When you have a simple past structure, you report using a past perfect structure. But when you have a present perfect structure, you also report in the past perfect structure. Yeah? So simple past or present perfect are both reported to past perfect. All these details about the verb changes, about the pronouns, and about the time expressions are here in your book on page 148. The exercises we have for supporting activities will be very important for you to understand the changes. Because in the exercises, you have the change from direct to reported speech, but you also have the opposite when you change from reported to direct speech. Okay? So do the activities, guys, and in our synchronized class, we'll be able to discuss a little better and to check the conversation between the neighbors where they overheard something the other person, the neighbors, were saying. And then you will understand better when to report the speech, when to see that. Yeah? That's it. So don't gossip, keep studying, and I'll talk to you later. Bye bye, guys.